What does paying yourself first actually mean? And why do you want to use this method? I'll tell you all about it today in this episode. Paying yourself first means that you take either 10 or 20% out of your income, and that's your paycheck, and you invest it, whether that's going to be your savings account or that's going to be an investment method, so the investment method that you choose. But this is paying yourself first before any of your bills, before any of your wants, or anything else that comes out of your budget or your paycheck. This is so important because of your future. And the reason why it's important, I can point you to a video if you want to find out more about investing. And if you want a free calculator as well, I do have a free calculator on this episode. So I'll go ahead and visit this video of mine, and you'll find out how to become a millionaire if you want to one day, and how much you need to invest, and why saving and investing is so important for your future. There are a few different theories out there, or a few different principles that people use, and it depends on who you talk to. But you can either take, the common method is 15% out of your paycheck or out of your income, and to put into a savings account or investing. So some people say it's going to be 20% is better, which it is. It's better. 20% is better than 15, obviously, or 25. But at what point do you take away from your daily living and your activities? And I'll get into that today, and I'll break it all down for you. So how do you ensure that you're going to pay yourself first? Well, I always relate this back to a budget, and I think everyone should have a budget, whether that's a simple budget or a long and detailed budget. I think that everybody should have one, just so that they know as a gauge to where they're at in their overall financial situation. I'll tell you exactly how you take out savings and investing. So the mindset between taking out money through investing is, there's a great saying out there that says, make yourself a bill. And that means put yourself as a line item in your budget. I think it's important for everybody to have a budget. It's a gauge, and it's an important factor to know where your money's going, and to know your financial situation month to month and year to year, depending on how often you keep your budget. So this is very important. And to make yourself a bill is to put your name as an item. Think of yourself as a utility bill. Think of yourself as a cell phone bill. You're going to put Greg on there as a line item. And that's going to be super important for you to understand and to realize that you need to put yourself first and pay yourself first. So whether that's 10% or 20%, whatever you can afford, and you'll have to find this out through trial and error month to month. So let me break it down for you here. So an important tool that you can use is a direct draw from your paycheck. If you get paid electronically, which most people do, then they can actually automate this process, and they could say, okay, I want that 10% or that 15% taken out of my paycheck automatically and put into this account. Now, this is done with an investment category that this can be done with is a 457B or 457 plan. And this is through your employer. It's employer sponsored. This is just a type of investment fund. It's not necessarily your actual stocks that you invest in or your categories. It's just the type of fund that it is. So your 457B can automatically be pulled out of your account. Now, something else you can do is you can have automatic draw cycling through your month. So here's another thing you can do is you can have your direct draw once or twice a month, or however often you need to be able to pull that money out of your checking account or your savings account, either one. And this is important because it automates the process. Now, this is an after the paycheck fact, so it doesn't actually pull it directly once you get paid, but it pulls it from a certain day of the month. So this is like the Roth IRAs would be an after the fact draw. And I've actually asked about this before, and I can't have it drawn off of my paycheck. So in my current situation, you look into it and find out how you can draw the money off your paycheck automatically is the most important thing. You don't want to see it. You don't want to spend it, on any kind of wants or anything that you have out there, because you want that invested. You want your 10% invested for your future. So super important point. So let me talk about the financial blind spots with this method. And we talk about it in business school, where it's you don't know what you don't know. There's like a 4-category matrix, and one of them is you don't know what you don't know, which means that you didn't foresee this coming up, and it's a blind spot because it happened, but you had no way of projecting it because you didn't know what it was. You didn't know the unknown. So important concept to think about when it comes to budgeting your money and using this pay yourself first method. Keep in mind I'm going to break this down into 4 different sections for you. And the very first item I want to talk about is not overspending on your needs. So I like to think of groceries as a category that people can either overspend on or underspend on, or make it perfect as far as their budget goes. But if you do the cash stuffing envelope method, this is where you can't go over. If you stick to that method, that's super good. So I just want to let you know that if you overspend on your needs, a lot of times, whether that's utility bill, you crank up that AC in summertime. A lot of people are feeling that right now. They're seeing that large utility bill. Let's crank that down a little bit. Let's use a little bit of discretion when it comes to that. But just go ahead and pay all those bills as a secondary. So that's going to be your first thing, is to not go over on your wants and also your needs. The second blind spot I want to talk to you about, and super, super important, because you might go through the process, you might pay yourself first, and then you go to the section where you start paying your bills, okay? And then you have your wants that you pay for, but your wants get a little bit out of control, okay? You're gonna actually you went on vacation this month, let's say, and you want to buy those new pair of shoes. So you overspend in this category. Maybe you overspend a little bit on your grocery budget, and that expands a little bit. Your needs and your wants have expanded. After you've paid yourself your 10%, well, you've blown your budget at this point. You're over by 20%. Wow, you didn't know that because it's a blind spot. And here's what you don't want to do. You don't want to just pull the credit card out and say, this is going to save me. The best thing that, I don't know it's the best thing, but people say I deserve this. Math doesn't lie. So once you look at your budget, that's where it's at. Do you deserve it? That's kind of outside of the question. Do you have money for it? That's more of the question. So it's important for you to realize that you can't necessarily just save yourself with credit cards at the end of the month. Okay. I've been victim to this. I've been somebody that's done this before. And it's like one of those muscles you need to build up in order to look at the better side of things, and just look back at your budget and try to keep that a little tighter. Another thing, another blind spot and another item is to pay your bills on time. So this is something that could catch up with you. This is the item number 3 I wanted to talk about. And it'll catch up with you because of the fact that if you don't pay your bills, then they compound, and it's really hard to catch up once you don't pay a bill. You don't pay a second time and a third time. Man, they even take your car after like 3 missed payments. I've seen it happen before on my own eyes. So with people that I know, they come and grab your car. So not a good thing. So I want you guys to be diligent on this aspect, and I want you to realize that you need to keep track of your bills, and you need to pay your bills on time. So that's why budgeting is so important. Another thing that you don't know, or your blind spot, is the 4th item I wanted to talk about today. Now, the 4th item is having an emergency fund. And how's the best way to build an emergency fund? I'll tell you what, I have another video out about this. I'm super excited to tell this because this is like one of my top videos, you know what I mean? So I want you to watch it. It's about a sinking fund and how you set up a sinking fund and how you allocate money each month to this fund so that you can have a certain amount of money in your emergency fund. I talk about tires, and I talk about needing them after like 6 years or 4 years, whenever the tires run out, what you're rated for, and you have that savings account already built in. So that's not something that's a blind spot to you anymore because you've already fixed it. So super important to look at. Build that emergency fund for those items, and start with a sinking fund today. Go check out my video on how that all goes down. If you're paying yourself first, you're saying to yourself that you really do. You care about your future. You care about, your retirement. You care about your kids because you have a certain fund and a certain amount to draw from if you had to at any point. I'm not saying you want to draw from your investment fund, but let's just say you don't have one. What are you going to draw from, or no emergency fund? But reduce the risk in your life. Make this 10 or 20% a necessity. Make yourself a bill. Make yourself a line item. And this is just a very important concept, and I want everybody to try this in their budget today. Once you get to the end and you don't have any money left after you put that 10% in, look at what you can adjust. I challenge you to do this, and then I want you to see where you're at the end of the month. If you're good, think about that. You've invested 10% or 20% of your income. You can start off with 5 if you wanted to start with a baby step. Let's say 5%. I want you to take that out, try next month and see if you can do this. And, tell me in the comments, how you did, where you're at the end of the month, if you had to rely on a credit card, what you had to do at the end of the month, and see how you tightened up your budget. I'd like to hear about that in the notes. Obviously, if you guys, subscribe to my channel, I have other super important topics that I talk about with money, and I want everybody to be better, and I want them to master their money. Thanks.